This video is based on a true story. These stories are based on real-life incidents. Please respect the family and friends of individuals featured on this channel. Remember to be courteous of your comments. Many details of these true stories are gory and frightening. If you do not want to hear these types of details, please do not watch this video series. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Welcome back to Scary Bear Attacks. Today's episode is titled The Bear Who Stalked and Killed Harley Sievenpiper. The date was November 4th, 1988. It was a cold, blustery day, and Harley Sievenpiper and his hunting party were heading up to hunt deer on the south end of Baranof Island off the coast of Alaska, near Port Alexander. This part of Alaska is essentially a temperate rainforest with abundant moisture, cool temperatures, and lots of thick vegetation. The deer hunting is great, and the target is Sitka Blacktail deer, which is a diminutive version of the same blacktail deer found in the western United States and Canada. Baranof Island is a mountainous, unforgiving environment and features some world-class scenery and lots of bears. The bears here subsist off of deer and various plants and berries when seasonally available. During the salmon runs, the bears feast off of the skin and eggs of the females to build the fat they will need to survive hibernation. The hunting party included David Trejo from Juneau and James Hendricks from Port Alexander, both in their 30s, and Harley, who was 40 years old. Each of the men were in healthy shape and ready to hit the bush for a great time pursuing their favorite target. The three men agreed to go in different directions and ironed out the usual safety signals and plans. Harley decided to walk down the beach as a way to put distance between him and his partners. He then walked a couple of 100 yards into the bush until he located a patch of muskeg, which is a swampy area that grass grows in and is great for watching for moving animals. He found a spruce tree for cover and sat down to use his deer call. His equipment was in his pockets, and he fumbled around looking for various items he was planning on using during his hunt. As Harley called, his head surveyed the bush around the muskeg, carefully watching for deer to bust out of cover and check out what was going on. The safety of his rifle was on, and he removed his scope cover so he could quickly zoom in on anything that drew his attention. He was enjoying his time in the peaceful surroundings. Suddenly, an eruption of growling and grunting surrounded Harley. He turned around to see a huge male brown bear closing in on him quickly from only 30 yards. The bear's back paws were digging into the soil as it put all of its energy into pursuing its prey. The bear was unavoidable to Harley now, as he had only a fraction of a second to react before the bear's impact sent him spilling onto his back. Harley's eyeglasses and cap were sent sailing through the air, and his rifle was driven halfway into the muskeg. The bear immediately broke Harley's neck and began tearing his body apart. A few hundred yards away, Harley's hunting buddies heard Harley scream and the bear growl. They immediately hurried to the location. They arrived at the attack scene, and Harley was gone. Only a scattered spread of his possessions and pools of his blood remained. The two men immediately left the area to gather help to find their friend. A small search party from nearby Sitka had arrived on scene and were milling around when search and rescue expert Don Cluting, who was trained in tracking and was an EMT, arrived on the scene. From the attack scene, the search party followed a drag trail left by the bear as it hauled Harley off. The drag trail was littered with torn clothing, tissue, and bone fragments, and was covered with blood. The bear dragged Harley parallel to the beach for half a mile, and the armed search party followed the trail warily. The trail continued for a while before the party, which included Harley's hunting buddies, reached a particularly gory and bloody point. Harley's hunting buddies were visibly shaken by the scene and decided to turn back. They were overwhelmed by the day's events. Roland Young, who was an Alaska State Trooper, took command of 6 of the men, and Don led the other 6 men, and they took the lead to follow the trail. Roland's group would document evidence as it was discovered and mark its location, as the other party would search for the next. The search party continued in this manner until they could only find the drag trail. No more blood, bone fragments, or tattered clothes. Suddenly a deep growl rumbled across the forest, very near to the search party members. Don immediately instructed 3 of his men to stay on the nearby ridge, as the other 3 slowly crept uphill about 20 yards. 2 of the men lost their nerve and lagged behind cautiously, while Don continued on another few yards, when suddenly he spotted the bear's giant head in the bush. The same moment he spotted the bear, the angry Bruin quickly charged the 3 men left on the ridge. There was only 70 yards between the enraged bear as it initiated its charge and the men. The brush whipped and tossed as the bear steamrolled anything in its path. It was moving so quickly that Don could only process a brown blur as it flashed through the undergrowth. Don and another search party member both fired a shot at the bear, but despite being vitally wounded, it didn't even slow down. The 2 men feverishly worked the actions on their rifles, while the bear closed to within 20 yards of the men on the ridge. Don and his partner each fired another shot, and that diverted the bear's anger towards them. The bear's eyes were burning with rage, and it was coming to kill Don and his friend. Fortunately, the last 2 shots struck the bear's shoulders, and as it turned toward the pair, it collapsed and rolled onto its back. Don took 11 steps and was alongside the fierce giant, and humanely fired a shot into its skull for insurance. The men who were standing on the ridge were a mere 2 steps from where the bear fell. The charge had caused such chaos amongst the men on the ridge that one of them tripped and dangled over a 20-foot cliff. Another had stepped into a hole up to his hips and was firing into the air, but managed to shoot the bear in the foot. The 3rd man's rifle had misfired, with a round lodged in the chamber. Don radioed back to Roland to let him know it was over and the bear was dead. The party proceeded to the location where the bear had initially growled at them. They found Harley's partially consumed body buried under a bunch of duff piled up by the bear.
Before we bring our frightening story to a conclusion, we want to make sure to invite you to help us in our quest to earn 1,000 subscribers. Once we get there, we can monetize our channel and buy much-needed equipment and software upgrades to improve our channel quality. If you enjoy our channel, please consider subscribing, and please remember to like and share our videos on your social media profiles if you like them. We really appreciate you, and now back to our story.
The bear had apparently been laying on Harley's remains when the search party walked upon the scene. They collected Harley's remains into a recovery bag to bring him back to his family. Don skinned the bear as part of his investigation and noted that the very healthy male had nearly 0 body fat with a very thick hide. The bear's pelt was nearly 10 feet square when laid out on the ground, which is a giant bear. The unprovoked attack is a rare event, but it is believed the bear's predatory instinct was triggered after hearing the deer call Harley was using. After that, Harley was simply a food source.